Yo, this is Terrance Gaines, aka Brother Tech,
And this is Nica Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva.
and welcome back to the Snob OS Show, the show for Apple snobs, where we talk all things Apple and then some. We definitely want to welcome you back to another episode. This is episode 287 of the Snob OS Show, and as per usual, we want to thank all those people who have been rocking with us since the beginning. Or if you're a new member, welcome to the party. If you are a Patreon supporter, we definitely want to say thank you for supporting us financially. If you want to become a supporter of the show, please go to patreon.com/snoboscast. You can support us financially, help us keep the lights on, and as a thank you, we give you exclusive access to content that you will not hear on this show. You get to hear the show early, and you get to listen to us as we record the show live. So we definitely want to say thank you to all our Patreon supporters. You all help us keep the lights on. So after that, thank you. We want to get into the show as we normally do. We always start with the lowdown where we talk all things Apple. The first thing I wanted to announce or make known is Apple on the low announced a new Mac Mini. And what's special about this Mac Mini is it is built for Apple
iPad
Intelligence.
Mini,
Oh, what did I say?
Mac Mini.
Oh my God. iPad Mini. I saw Mini and I'm looking at my MacBook, so I put them together and said Mac Mini.
Right. At first,
Apple
I did,
has
and I was like, wait a minute. Yeah.
Apple Apple announced an iPad Mini that has the A17 Pro chip and support for the Apple Pencil Pro. But more importantly, it is built for Apple Intelligence. So this thing was announced earlier this week. Is starting at 499 for the 128 gig version, which is double the storage of the previous generation. Last time it started with 64 gigs, so they've doubled it to 128. It'll be available for pre-order now. So if you're listening to this now, you can go to Apple and pre-order it. It'll be available in stores or shipping to your door on Wednesday, October 23rd. So I wanted to put that out there, but also I wanted to put it out there that maybe this is tipping Apple's hat at when a possible Apple Intelligence iOS 18.1 will
Hmm.
be released. It's been rumored, it's been talked about that Apple won't announce 18.1 for iPadOS, for macOS, and for iOS. All of those updates for iOS and iPadOS, it'll be 18.1. It'll be macOS Sequoia something
Hmm.
for Apple Intelligence. But we've all been rumored that it's going to be released on the 28th of October. But I'm thinking, and I want to get your thoughts on this.
Hmm.
I'm thinking that Apple maybe with this iPad mini being available on Wednesday, October 23rd, that Apple doesn't want to ship yet another device
Without
that
it.
is ready for Apple Intelligence, but don't have it, Apple Intelligence until later on in the fall or whenever the case may be. So
Hmm.
I'm put my two and two together and saying maybe Apple's going to announce Apple Intelligence that's going to be available around or at the same time that this iPad mini is being available, which is October 23rd. So, what is your
Hmm.
take? Do you think Apple is going to launch yet another device without that's Apple Intelligence ready, but not Apple Intelligence available? Or you still think they're going to wait a week or longer to announce Apple Intelligence?
So this is very interesting, because again, this was just a press release announcement. It wasn't
Hmm.
a big. Um, it didn't have a big flourish to it. It's kind of like, hey, we got this new thing out. This is it.
Hmm.
So on one hand, that leads me to believe that we won't see Apple Intelligence likely until maybe either that Monday, or we know Apple likes to do stuff on Tuesdays, Tuesday that 29th. Or it could be, they say, hey, we got this new iPad, it's coming. And oh, by the way, you have this new Apple Intelligence. So it really, I'm kind of waffling because I could see it going both ways, but at the same time, it would seem like it would make a bigger splash if Apple Intelligence is announced by itself,
Hmm.
because this is like the new cornerstone of how Apple's OS systems, um, operating systems are going to operate going forward. So it seems to me that they would want for the release of 18.1 to be a little more splashier. Now, it won't be an event, but I would think they would maybe want that to be on its own terms, like
Hmm.
its own thing. So I don't know. I could really see it going both ways, but I would suspect that they would probably want Apple Intelligence to have its own day.
Okay. Well, my thought process was that since, like you mentioned, that this was just a press release update or a press release announcement for the iPad mini, that technically Apple Intelligence, if it does drop at the same time that the iPad mini is available, technically that in and of itself would be its own event because they really never really cared, Apple speaking,
True.
never really cared enough to make it a actual event or an actual announcement. So technically, indirectly, Apple Intelligence being available that Tuesday or Wednesday, of next week,
Mhm.
it would be its own day. But I see how they don't want to, have people's attention distracted with the new iPad mini, which technically I don't know too many people are like,
Who's clamoring
yes,
for that?
this is what I was waiting on.
Yeah.
The Apple Intelligence iPad mini, right? So
Right.
we'll have to see. I still believe that Apple's going to I want to believe that Apple's going to announce it next week and not wait
Mhm.
until the end of October or
Mhm.
later. Because again, whether I want to admit it or not, I think a lot of people want to see what Apple Intelligence does
Mhm.
before they decide whether or not they want to upgrade to a device that is capable of Apple
Mhm.
Intelligence. So that has, or I suspect it has had an effect on iPhone 16 sales
Sales. Yeah.
because people are waiting to see if it's worth it, if Apple Intelligence is worth it to get a compatible device. Because
Mhm.
Apple says, oh, Apple Intelligence will do this and that and this that. It'll do this, that, and this, that, and this and that, but nobody knows yet.
Nobody's
I
seen
mean,
it.
I have the public beta, so I've
Mhm.
had Apple Intelligence and it looks cute.
Mhm.
And there are some features that are helpful, like the
Mhm.
summary, the email summaries, and the text message summaries, and a couple other things. But that ain't what Copilot, ChatGPT, Gemini, Bard, Gronk,
Yeah.
all these other ones are like, hey, you can have a conversation with me and I
Mhm.
can help you get your life together, right?
Mhm.
That ain't what is on the public beta. We're
Mhm.
all waiting for that
The
the
full
chat.
release candidate that has
Right,
all the stuff.
right.
Yeah.
So I can see how people are waiting to see if it's worth it to go get a phone. So
Yeah.
all that to say, I'm hoping Apple hurry up and, and push this thing out so they can drive up their sales even more, right? I
Yeah.
hold Apple stock and it's like Apple's stock is kind of like
It's very
no,
level.
it's very level. So it's like, all right, Apple, I need y'all to make that money. So
Right.
launch this thing. Stop playing around.
Yeah. It's gonna be very interesting to see. Yet another device that you can pre-order. And I don't know who's really pre-ordering it, even though they say it's built um for Apple Intelligence. Would I buy something that
Mhm.
is specifically built for Apple Intelligence without Apple Intelligence? So it's kind
Right.
of like I said, it's kind of that thing where I could see, but then if you pre-order it without seeing it, when you get it on the 23rd, I mean, it's like a catch 22. Would you buy something
Hmm.
that's specifically for this without having it, or would you
Especially at
wait
that they
until
promote it.
after? Right.
Something that they promoted, the whole drive between the iPhone 16s, all of them, not the
Yeah.
Pro, not the Pro Max, but the
The
16, the
standard.
16 Plus.
Yeah.
Apple Intelligence is the standard. So
Yeah.
why ain't it on none of these devices, right?
Right. 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 So I don't know. I think patience is starting to wear very thin
Hmm.
among, not only Apple enthusiasts, but I think it's already kind of patience is done with most tech people. Apple people usually, tend to give a little bit more leeway, but I think the patience, even with the sheeple, as they call them, is starting to wear a little bit thin because we have phones, we have iPads, we have Mac OSs, all these things that are supposed to have Apple Intelligence, and the only thing you can say is coming this fall. So it's one of those things where you got to either put up or shut up, because I think, like you said, the issues with the sales for all of the iPhone 16 phones are, if you have an iPhone 13, you're like, well, it's time for me to upgrade, but do I really want to when I don't know what this new thing is? I could just keep my
Hmm.
old phone. It's working pretty fine as is. So I think, like you said, a lot of people are waiting, and Apple is losing out on money because people are
Hmm.
like, you're not gonna Charlie Brown and Lucy me. Because every time you come out with something, you say
Hmm.
Apple Intelligence, but ain't no Apple Intelligence.
Right, right, exactly. So we shall see. All right,
Absolutely.
moving on to the next story. Apple CarKey is set to expand to more vehicles. Uh, for the most part, right now, the only brand that you can get the car key, and for those who don't know, you can add, similar to how you can add digital keys to your Apple Wallet, that will enable you to unlock your front door if you have a supporting lock. Some hotels are adding Apple keys to where if you check into the hotel and you click the option, you'll be able to add a digital room key to your phone via the wallet.
Hmm.
Same thing for the car keys. Some brands, well, right now, the only brand is BMW that has said we're going to allow BMW owners to add a car key to their phone to where they can either be in the vicinity, like close vicinity via
Hmm.
Bluetooth, or they can actually hold their phone to the lock and
Hmm.
it'll unlock the doors, right? BMW has only been the brand that's done that. So it looks
Hmm.
like coming in the 2025 models, I think.
Okay.
Um, Companies like Hyundai is adding car key support to their Genesis and as well as their Kia vehicles. Also, Lotus is dropping some vehicles. I don't know the names of these, Elitre and Amiya. Uh, and
I don't
then
even know
also
what Lotus is.
Lotus is a supercar similar to like an Aston Martin,
Okay.
similar to like a I don't want to say Porsche. They're not as fancy as that. I'd say Lotus is almost like an Aston Martin to me, to where it's
Oh,
like a
out of my
supercar.
price range.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Out of mine too. But Lotus wants to add car key support. Mercedes wants to add car key support to their E-Class models, not their whole brand, just the E-Class models. And then, like I mentioned, Kia, Telluride, Hyundai Palisade, and their Ioniq 6, which is their electric vehicle. And then Hyundai has a kind of Lexus, you think of Toyota is like the everyman's car, and then they have like Lexus, which is like the
Hmm.
Toyota but for rich people or for people with more money, right?
My
Yeah,
aunt has a Palisade, and it is nice.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
drove and I was like, "Oh, this is nice."
So Hyundai has a Genesis line, which is their upper echelon version. So some of
Hmm.
those will have it, but it's just surprising that they all like in 2022 and 2023 and 2024 all have said, "Yeah, we are trying to support it,"
Hmm.
but like nothing has really came about it yet up
Hmm.
until like we're looking where it looks like the 2025 models, which are starting to roll out now and
Hmm.
probably really don't get popular until like holiday shopping season.
Hmm.
But it's interesting that, you know, only BMW right now has only got the car keys. I'm wondering, what's your
And
take
they've
on
had them
why?
for, and they've had the car keys for a couple years now, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
BMW.
wonder. I wonder what the holdup is, and I wonder why there hasn't been that much fanfare around
Mm.
car keys being added to the wallet. What do you think you have like any suspicions as to why?
No, it's very interesting because I remember when they announced that it was at one of the Apple events. I want to say it was iOS maybe 16 that
Hmm.
they announced this whole car key thing. And I was like, okay, this is probably going to expand to other vehicles. And I was expecting, other, manufacturers to be added, within, the next year or two. And they haven't. So I was really surprised. I'm not quite sure. Um, what is taking so long? I don't know if it's because of the chip shortage that we had a few years
Hmm.
ago, that maybe
Hmm.
they couldn't get the technology to the actual hardware to put into the vehicles for this. And it seems like I'm surprised there's no um, Audi on here or
Right.
Jaguar.
Hmm.
I'm really surprised at the limited number of manufacturers that are willing to get on board with this. Because
Well,
it seems
go ahead.
no, I said because it seems like this is, what's next because
Right.
it's built in, as you mentioned, in the run up to this, hotel keys, to your own front door.
Hmm.
You have now a lot of companies, they have apps for their vehicles. You can unlock the apps because I think like I said, my aunt, she got a brand new Palisade. She's had it a few months, and she was like, she'll get a notification from the app that's like, hey, you didn't lock your car, that type
Hmm.
of thing. So it's one of those
Right.
things where you can unlock your car with the app and all this. So I'm really surprised that it hasn't um rolled out
Yeah.
as fast, and it's not in more manufacturers. It's different. It's strange because everybody's trying to go digital.
Right. Well, maybe the I'm reading the story in iDrop News, and they are hinting at the fact that, and I'm speculating as well, and say maybe they are waiting for more devices to actually support the car key, because according to the story,
Mm,
it says the more significant question is whether these vehicles will support both ultra wideband and near field communication, as some existing models are ultra wideband only. That rules out support for older iPhone and Apple Watch models that don't have the U1 chip, limiting car key support for the iPhone 11 and later, but not the iPhone SE and the Apple Watch Series 6 and later models, but not the Apple Watch SE. As awkward as they are, NFC car keys can be used from the iPhone 10s or later, iPhone SE 2020 or later, or an Apple Watch Series 5 or SE and later models. So
mhm,
basically, Apple has kind of splintered the car key support amongst their own devices, which
mm.
makes automotive brands go like, "Oh, wait a minute. We just gonna wait till y'all get y'all stuff together." And then once y'all get y'all stuff together and or a majority of the iPhones support the right technology, then we'll jump on and support, car keys. But again, that's just speculation.
Yeah, and it also leads me to take a different, idea of thought is this type of technology specifically for iPhones? So these manufacturers will be building this, but say Android wants to come out with some form of this. Would it
Hmm.
be a different piece of technology that is like, oh, these are only Apple compatible, and you have to come out
Hmm.
with a whole new car or a whole
Right.
new piece of hardware for
Right.
that? And the other thing is, if you have any of these cars that they have listed and you're still rocking an iPhone 10
SE, the first one.
SE, the first one, or
Right.
a Apple Watch 5, then you don't
Well,
need this.
so that you bring that up, that's you make a good point, right? I want to believe that people care more about their cars than they do their phones. Just me
Yeah.
being a iPhone user and me being a snob,
Mhm.
I do pocket watch as far as what people are using. whether it
Mhm.
be an Android, whether it be an iPhone, whatever the case
Mhm.
may be. Even if you have an Android, are you carrying the
What kind
Google
of
Pixel?
Android?
Right. Are
Right?
you carrying the Google Pixel, or do you got the Samsung Ultra Galaxy Supernova, or do you
Or you
just
got the
like
Walmart special?
or do you got the Walmart special? Same thing with the iPhones. It's like I've seen people with like pull out of Lexuses and pull out of BMWs, and they've got an iPhone 10 with a cracked screen. So my guess is, they are deciding where their money goes. And with our society,
Yeah.
people use cars as a status symbol, not so much with phones, right? I'm not,
Mhm.
there are some snobs out there. There are some, we'll talk about it a little bit later,
No.
green bubbles, that sort of thing.
No.
But my guess is if people had to choose, they would put their money in a car versus put their money in a phone. So all around the world to say
Mhm.
that I can totally understand somebody with an iPhone SE and an
Mhm.
Apple Watch SE getting out of a Lotus.
Mhm.
So again, but you bring up a good point about, car companies waiting because iPhone may be coming out with a different app. iPhone may be using ultra wideband
Mhm.
versus Android. I think most Androids use NFC. I think that's Android's thing. I'm gonna stick beside them, right?
Mhm.
NFC versus Apple is always kind of doing their own thing, and they may be
Right.
adopting ultra wideband. So all that to say, these car companies are like, my name is Bennett, and we ain't in
I
it
ain't in it.
until y'all figure it out. Then once y'all figure it out and get a standard that we can create to, that we can program to, that we can, whether it be hardware or software, figure that out first. Give us the standard that is universal, and then we'll add more support.
And I'll just say, as a person who was used to work for a car company, the
Mhm,
cycles on how they build these things out, it's not something that it could just be easily kind of thrown in there to say, hey, add this
mhm.
technology. So these probably won't get into models anytime soon unless
Right.
they've already had some sort of conversation to say this is what we're thinking, this is what the expectation
Mhm,
is. But you can't expect manufacturers to go on guesstimations unless they've already had those conversations to say this is our roadmap, this is what we're going to do, this is how it works. And then car companies say, okay, cool, I got you, we can maybe put this in on 2020 whatever
mhm.
version of the car, but it takes a minute, as you can
Right.
imagine, to get some approval, integration, all those types of things um, in these cars. So it's not just something you can say, hey, yeah, let's do it.
Right. All right. So enough of that. We're going to move into the next story. I put this title: Apple doesn't think LLMs are very smart. So Apple conducted a study on what does LLM stand for? Language learning
Large,
models. What is it?
large,
Large
large language
language
models.
models. I always get that mixed up. All right, so OpenAI, Copilot, Gemini, they've all gung ho on large language models, which is
Hmm.
what you're doing when you're opening up Chat GPT and you're having this quote unquote conversation. Large language models enable that to happen to where these models are kind of, I don't want to say learning, but they use pattern matching
Yeah.
to figure out how the conversation go, your tone, your whatever the case may be, right? So
Hmm.
Apple has done this study. A study from six Apple engineers shows that the mathematical reasoning displayed by advanced large language models can be extremely brittle
Hmm.
and unreliable in the face of seemingly trivial changes to common benchmark problems. So I was about to go into this thing, but this is your this is your wheelhouse. So break it down as to what Apple means by these large language models being brittle, and more specifically, can break when trivial changes are introduced into
Right.
the equation.
Right. So Apple is correct. These large language models, they can be fickle.
Hmm.
They can break easily because a lot of times you have to think about this. You have this all this data. First of all, it starts with your source data. If your
Hmm.
source data is crappy, there
Hmm.
you can't out engineer your way into making a model that's going to be excellent. If the
Hmm.
data starts off bad, then that's your 0 point of failure. You might as well just
Right.
hang it up right there.
Hmm.
So if
Hmm.
you get past the stage where you have good data, it's cleansed, it's set, it's in pristine condition,
Hmm.
when you get to the actual building of the model, again, you have to think about when you're creating these models, the thought process behind it is your expectation is to treat it like a human brain. If you
Hmm.
think about a child and you're
Hmm.
teaching them language, you're teaching
Hmm.
them, hey, this is an apple,
Hmm.
this is an orange,
Hmm.
this is yellow, this is blue. But there are nuances to all
Hmm.
of these things. You got an apple. Is it a red apple? Is it a green apple? Is it a
Hmm.
yellow apple? And when you are trying to create these models, when you're giving it all of this data, if it goes against, again, because it is a machine, if you give it something outside of its standard kind of purview. Think of horses that have like the blinders on. If you give it something outside of what it's expected to do, because again, like you mentioned, it's pattern matching. You're
Hmm.
teaching it patterns. And if you give it a pattern that's outside of its parameters and it doesn't know how to digest it, it doesn't know how to process it, your model, your algorithm hasn't been built to put those types of
Consider those
inputs,
parameters. Yeah.
yeah, into it, then it breaks.
Right.
It's just like if you have think of it as a basic input site. You go to sign
Hmm.
up for something. It tells
Hmm.
you can't use, you have to have special characters, but you can't have these special characters.
Right.
And so
Right.
there are times when, if you put one of those special characters in there and the code behind it hasn't prepared for it, it just
Hmm.
does all these funky things and it breaks. And it's like, oh
Right.
my God, I don't know what to do with this. I don't know what to do with this. So it's the
Right.
same thing with these large language models. The difference is it's on a bigger scale.
Right.
You have so much more data, you have so much more input, you have so many more ways that you are trying to pattern match. You have so many different ways you are trying to tell this thing how to think. And again, just like humans, machines are fallible. If you aren't giving it all of the potential factors or the potential scenarios, then it will.
Hmm.
But when
Right.
you think about it, there's no possible way that you can come up with every type of scenario to
Right.
fit it. And that's where
Right.
kind of the logic comes behind it. It's like you
Hmm.
can't possibly tell it everything, but you're trying to allow it to teach itself. But again,
Hmm.
it's only so much that you can do. And if you
Hmm.
aren't very critical, if you aren't very intentional about this, the slightest thing, and sometimes the most innocuous thing, can
Hmm. Hmm.
completely break a system. And again,
Right.
these models they're putting them out there, and they can easily, if you follow the rules and do what's expected, sure, great,
Hmm.
fantastic. But how often does that not happen?
Right. And that leads me to my ultimate point that we talk about AI and AI and AI. The part of AI, it's one is artificial, the
Hmm.
other part is intelligence,
Hmm.
right? And what I kind of glean from this is as much data as you try to give it, it's not yet to that Skynet mode yet because it doesn't know how to handle these differences, this new data. Now, once large language models, can you feed it some data outside of its parameters and it learns or figures out the concept or figures out the context and then is able to give you the correct answer or perform the way you wanted to, then we're in trouble.
Yeah.
But right now we're all calling it AI and it ain't all that smart yet. It ain't got the intelligence
And you
to
know
figure that
why?
out yet.
And you know why that's the case? Because there are people creating it, and the intelligence only extends to the technology as far as the intelligence of the person that's creating it.
Hmm.
So even if you take it, a little bit further and you think of maybe the ethical side of this, or you think of, a person's lived experience. My lived
Mhm.
experience will be different than someone else's. And if the person who's creating it, going on quote unquote their intelligence, their experience is going to be informed different, which is one of the
Sure.
reasons why it's so important that we have a diverse group of
Hmm.
people that are creating these intelligencies, that are creating these
Hmm.
models, because at again, it's only as intelligent as its creator.
Right.
So you
Yep.
have to ensure that you got all different types of intelligence,
Hmm.
adding their input to this. And that's
Right.
really the only way to make these things, make your algorithms, making your technology, making your robots, or whatever the case may be, whatever however you're implementing AI and machine learning into your world, you have to make sure that the intelligence of the creator or creators
Hmm.
is sufficient.
All right. All right. Well, the story gets all super technical, and I ain't got it like that. So we'll leave it there. We'll move on to the next story. So you're single. Well, let me not assume.
That
My
is
assumption
correct.
is okay. All right. My assumption is that you are single, and my question to you is, if you are out on a hypothetical scenario, if you're
Okay.
out meeting somebody for the first time, and
Mhm.
you've chit chatted over the phone or whatever the case may
Mhm.
be, y'all decide y'all want to meet.
Mhm.
You find out he has an Android. Is that going to be a positive, or I mean, is it going to be a neutral, or is it going to actually be a red flag that he has an Android, which means your conversations when y'all move off of social media and you move off of the dating apps and you move
Uh-huh.
into the text message stage.
Uh-huh.
Again, I'm assuming these are the stages, right? You go from
Uh-huh. Yeah.
DMs, you go from the dating apps, and then you go into the actual text message
Exchanging of
stage.
your actual phone number.
Right. Are
Yeah.
you going to feel some kind of way if his bubbles pop up green?
I am definitely going to give it a bit of a side eye,
Okay,
but
okay.
that's being, completely honest. I don't have many people in my orbit who
Mm-hmm.
don't have iPhones. There's some, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but the mass majority of people that are in my orbit have iPhones. So I definitely will give it a little bit of the side eye, but I'll say it all depends on his other intangibles. Can you
Mm-hmm.
make up for your lack
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah. You
having
start.
superior technology? What are some of the other things that can offset you
You got to
using
catch up, buddy.
right? Or at least what kind of green bubble do you have? Similar to what we were talking about before. Do you have a Pixel green bubble? Do you have a
Right,
Samsung green? What kind of
right.
green bubble
Yeah, is
do
it?
you
Right,
have? And then
right.
that is like, yeah, that's yeah. And people may say that's, a bit snobby, or that's not a very, smart reason to put somebody out of
I've
the
seen people get
running.
rejected for less.
Right.
For less.
And I'm gonna be honest, I am a tech snob. Hell, I
Hmm.
host a tech show. I work in tech. So I am how people judge you by your shoes. Do you have
Hmm.
Bobos? Do you have
Sure,
Jordans? Do
sure,
you have real gold or fake gold?
sure.
Are you wearing labels or are you not?
Hmm.
Why can't I
Hmm.
judge someone based on
On
their
their
choice
technology.
technology if you are
Hmm.
basing it on whether they wear real gold or not, or whether they have a Cuban link chain or
All
a
right.
gold rope chain, or is it just,
Hmm.
is it herringbone? What kind of shit is it? Or,
Right.
is it 14K? Is it 18K? It's everybody has kind of like their thing, but I definitely say I'd be giving a little side eye
Yeah.
on the green bubble, and then it depends on what kind of green bubble do you have.
Got it, got it. So the reason why I bring all this up is because this is an actual thing. According to a new survey conducted by a site all about cookies, some iPhone users, quote unquote, think less of others represented as a green bubble while texting, which often depicts Android users.
Mhm.
For this study, All About Cookies surveyed 1,000 anonymous adults in July 2024 via a market research study tool. Among the iPhone users surveyed in a study, nearly a quarter, 22%, admit that they look down on users that send non iMessage texts,
Mhm.
i.g., Android users.
Mhm.
However, 78% of iPhone owning participants say they don't feel superior to green bubble senders. Interestingly, 23% of iPhone users get turned off when they discover that a potential love interest comes up as a green bubble in their first text conversation, calling it a quote unquote deal breaker. So, nearly 23% of iPhone users, if their potential partner, potential mate, whatever, has an Android, that to them can and does equal a red flag. So
Yeah.
I'm curious as to, of course, I
Mhm.
probably already know the answer, but I'm curious as to how Android users feel about this.
And
Is
yeah.
that is this a I get it, or is this oh, so you think you're better than me? And then as a result, they see iPhone users as a red flag when that
Mhm.
conversation turns into the text message. I'm
Yeah.
definitely curious about that, but of course the study doesn't have that. But
Yeah.
I would assume there'd be some revenge or some
Yeah.
revenge porn as it relates to iPhone users who, according to this story, 20% of them, a third of them, look down on Android users as potential mates,
Yeah.
not necessarily just people in general, not
Yeah.
necessarily, whatever the case may be, but somebody that they would be potentially romantically interested in,
Mhm.
them having a green bubble in their conversations, like you said, makes them feel some kind of way. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, yeah, it's very interesting. I wouldn't say it was a deal breaker because that to me is taking it to a little bit to the
Hmm.
extreme of saying it's a deal breaker or thinking that you're better than someone who
Hmm.
has a green bubble. I don't
Hmm.
necessarily prescribe to those uh lot ways of thinking, but
Hmm.
I would definitely give like it would definitely give me a kind of like a
So
little
what's
jerk, a little cause for pause for
so
the
everybody's
green
using
bubble.
flags. So everybody's using flags. What's in between a red and a green
A
flag? Green
yellow,
flag. Is it a
a
yellow?
yellow.
Okay.
It's a yellow
Okay.
flag.
Yeah. But keep in mind to back up my iPhone family.
Mhm,
78%, a majority of iPhone users don't feel superior to green
mhm.
bubble senders, but I was just surprised that not only does a third do, but they would actually look at it as a red flag in
That
that first.
is that's shocking that it would be a red flag or that it would be a deal breaker. I think that's taking it a little bit too far. And again, it would be a yellow flag for the purpose of what type of
Right.
Android user are you?
What does that say about you? Like
Yeah,
we talked
like
about earlier, I mentioned earlier that a lot of people really don't care about their phones as much
mhm.
as other things like clothes, like cars. But for those of us who do, does the quality of their technology send some sort of signal?
To
And
me,
apparently
it
it does.
does. To me, it does say something. I
Mhm.
definitely get, everybody can't or doesn't want to,
Right.
spend this much on on a phone,
Mhm.
but your phone is outside of your face. Your phone is probably the most visible thing. Why? Because everyone is always on
On
their
their phone.
phone.
Right.
So you meet a person, you see their face, and the next thing you see is their phone because their phone is likely in their hand the whole time.
Mhm.
It's not likely to be in a purse or in a back pocket or in a hoodie pocket or whatever. Is likely going to be in your hand, and that is we always. I don't care what you're doing. You're constantly
Sure.
reaching for your phone, looking for your
Sure.
phone, and it's almost a bit part of your identity. Even I know
Yeah.
it's kind of weird to say, but it is
No, no,
because
no. I get it.
there are a lot of people who how we love Apple, people
Hmm.
love Androids that way. I don't
Sure.
know if they love them for the fact of that they're Android phones or if it's that
Hmm.
they love them so much. It's like, I'm not an Apple user. I'm not a
Yeah, I'm not a
sheep.
sheeple.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not.
it's not
I'm
because
unplugged from the matrix. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I don't a lot of times, I'm gonna be honest, most times I don't think it's the fact that they don't like I mean that they love Samsung or pixel or whatever the case may be. I think is a lot of people trying to be contrarian is like, well, I'm not
Sure.
like one of those people,
Sure.
so it to me that's kind of what it gives. But this is a very interesting study.
Well,
It's
I'm
very
not
interesting, and
surprised.
I get it,
Yeah,
and I get it.
you, I'm not really that bothered. If I was single and I was dating somebody and they had an Android, it wouldn't make me none. I'd be like, we got that's what WhatsApp's for. But I am a car guy, right?
Hmm.
Now, I don't particularly care about what kind of car you have,
Hmm.
but I do care about how you take care of
Care
the
of it.
car. If you don't keep it washed, and I ain't talking about it ain't got to be every time I see you. If I'm a potential,
Hmm.
interview, or, I'm interested in somebody
Hmm.
and they don't keep it washed, they got scratches all up and down it, and more importantly, if I open up your car
It's
door
dirty on
and
the
you got
inside.
all this junk on the inside and on the floors, I'm definitely like, oh no, nuh-uh. We're going to talk about this, because what you're not going to do is then get in my car and treat my car
The way
like
you
you
treat
treat
yours.
your car. I ain't got no expensive Mercedes, BMW, this and that and the other, but I take care of my car,
Hmm.
because I am a car guy. So I
Yeah.
could see, I,
Cluttered car
while,
equals cluttered brain. If
right,
you're not taking care of something, the same with the phone. It's most people, particularly here in where we live, most
mhm,
people have a car because
right.
you need a car to get around. We're not a transportation friendly city or
Mhm.
state, so it's one of those things where pretty much everybody has a car.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where if you just treating it like trash, then
Mhm.
that says a lot about how if you can treat something that you pay for, that you have to maintain, you have to put gas and you have to put insurance. If you treat something that your money, your hard-earned money is going into like trash, then how the hell are you going to treat me as a person?
Right, right, right. Yep, so all that to say, everybody's got their quirks, right?
Right.
Some people have green bubble quirks. Some people have name labels like, you what you're not gonna do is wear Nike and Adidas at the
No,
same
you are
time.
not. You are
Some people trip
not.
out about that while other people don't care. Like I said, some people don't
Ugh.
care about cars. I care a lot. Like Nica says, she cares about how people handle their phones. That's got to, so I don't want people to think that, oh, them iPhone people. No, it's just people have quirks,
Yeah.
and some people's phones, some people's clothes, some people's cars, all kind of houses,
Watches,
whatever the case may
jewelry.
be.
Yeah.
Right, right, exactly.
Careers.
There are some people who look down on Apple Watch wearers
Yeah.
because it's
Why
like
are you
what you
wearing
not
the Apple Watch to a formal thing? Because I got a band.
exactly.
I have a really nice band that goes with it. It matches my outfit.
Right, 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 right. So everybody's got their quirks. So I just thought that was interesting.
Yep,
All
for
right.
sure.
Yep. So that's going to do it for the lowdown. We're going to move into second string. And I think you've mentioned Ticketmaster breach in the
Mhm.
past, but it looks like it's taken a step further. And
Oh,
now Ticketmaster is being sued over the massive data breach. Plaintiffs claim the breach was, quote, a direct result of Ticketmaster's failure to implement adequate and reasonable data protection procedures. Ticketmaster is facing a class action lawsuit over the massive data breach the company suffered from the hacker group Shiny Hunters earlier this year. Shiny Hunters claimed that it obtained personal data of 560 million Ticketmaster accounts through third party cloud data company Snowflake, ransoming the data for $500,000. Among the data included in the breach were names, addresses, and phone numbers, as well as some limited credit card data. The suit states that Ticketmaster and its parent company, Live Nation Entertainment, had said the hacker group gained access to data in April. Live Nation acknowledged the data brief in a filing with the Security Exchange Commission at the end of May. So, therefore, as a result, they're suing Ticketmaster and Nine Live Nation, claiming negligence. The reason
what?
why I bring this up is because why on earth Ticketmaster and Live Nation, who is taking all of our money when it comes to going to concerts, going to events, Ticketmaster and Live Nation pretty much own
They're a
all of the
monopoly.
events and venues, considering them a monopoly in the event space.
Mhm.
But y'all ain't got enough money to be able to protect your data. All that money you taking in ticket fees and accessory fees and this fee and that fee, y'all can't afford no better firewalls to where somebody can steal your data and ransom it back to you for $500,000. Y'all deserve to be sued. So I just wanted to get
Yeah.
your take on the fact that Ticketmaster is like, oh, well, it bees like that. But it's like, no, y'all can afford to be an exception, but y'all not. So what's going on?
So yeah, so they have more than enough money to do all that. But again,
Hmm.
capitalist society, it's all about the bottom line, all about their shareholders, and they feel that they can, skimp on certain aspects. And what's the worst that's going to happen? They may get a fine from the government, or
Right,
they may get sued, but it's not going to hurt them in their pockets. Yeah, they're going
right.
to hate to have to give
Taylor
up that
Swift,
money.
the Swifties won't like them. Congress may bring them
Right.
in to have some conversations, but that's it.
They know that, and they're used to not having to have any real tangible,
Hmm.
accountability. You
Right,
know, the money that they are going to probably pay in legal fees and lawsuits, they could have used that money to put in better security.
right.
But that would be money that comes off the top. They already
Yep.
have budgets for legal, they have
Hmm.
insurance that pays this stuff out. So it's like until these companies are truly held accountable,
Hmm.
is one thing, to be get fined by the government, to have to pay this money back or whatever. But again, they have insurance that
Hmm.
covers these things. Until you start going at them, you know, their bottom line,
Hmm.
you know, putting it to me, if you have to go as far as to imposing sanctions on the company. Well, you did X, Y, and Z. So for the next 5 years, you have to jump through hoops A through J.
A
And
lot of
so
regulation.
right,
Hmm.
and you start to regulate them, you start to put, they have lobbyists to go on, Capitol Hill on their behalf, until
Hmm.
they start saying, you know what, you can't donate to PACs or campaigns. I don't know if that's legal or not, but no, it's going to take that level of effort to
Hmm.
be able to get under control, because companies, oil companies, you have ticket companies,
Hmm.
power, electric,
Hmm.
automotive, all these people
Hmm.
have been having to pay fines and had things levied against them because of their negligence. But does that stop them? No,
Hmm.
they just pay it and keep it moving and keep
Right.
putting customers in danger, which is
Hmm.
what they're doing with all this data. And they honestly, it seems to me they don't really care, because no, they know that nothing's really going to actually happen to them to cause
But
them any type of inconvenience.
yeah, but this may be different. Well, I hope it's different because there have been rumors, maybe even conversations about, like you mentioned, Ticketmaster and Live Nation being a monopoly.
Mhm.
Google is going through the fire right about now because judges and courts have labeled Google a monopoly as it relates to their search.
Mhm.
This Ticketmaster being sued due to this massive data breach may trigger those conversations about Ticketmaster and Live Nation being a monopoly. This may be another piece of ammunition for the government to say, "Hey, y'all need to break this up
Right.
because y'all got too much. Y'all control all of the events, so
Mhm.
therefore you control all the ticket sales.
You
So
control
therefore you
all the
control all
venues,
the data."
everything.
And you control all of the data. So all it
Yeah.
takes is one person, per example, one group to get in there and get all that data. If you were broken up, it may mitigate the damage. So we're going to go ahead and move forward with these conversations of breaking y'all up so that the next time y'all get hacked, it don't affect everybody. It just
Right.
affects a small group of people or whatever the
Cause
case
this
may
is
be.
yeah, because this affects everybody, because anybody who goes to a concert, goes to a sporting event, which is millions and millions of people.
Hmm.
What we
Hmm.
have, what, 380 million people in this country?
Hmm.
Probably a good 75%,
A large
y-
number.
a large number. y- use ticket
Attend
have
events, right?
they have
Hmm.
attend events. They have no choice but to go through Ticketmaster Live Nation. And so
Hmm.
you're putting a lot of um the United States population
Their
at a
data at risk.
disadvantage. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
for sure.
Hmm. Hmm. Yep. Speaking of events, we are done with For the Culture. I'm sorry, we're done with Second String. We're going to move into For the Culture, where we talk things social. And like I said, speaking of events, I don't know what the folks across the pond thought they were going to get that was going to be different than what we Americans have been dealing with, but it looks like Lauryn Hill and Wyclef Jean have been blasted for being an hour late to a London show.
Mm,
So, Fuji's members Lauryn Hill and Wyclef Jean have received backlash from fans over showing up late for a live performance in London on this past Monday. Hill and Wyclef were reportedly over an hour late for their concert in the O2 Arena, causing numerous fans to leave the venue prior to the duo hitting the stage. Now, in general, I think there aren't too many events, especially with music artists,
mhm,
that start exactly on time,
mhm,
right? I can understand some of these bigger artists and beloved artists like Lauryn Hill, like Wyclef Jean. They can afford being late because people love them and people want
mhm,
to hear them sing.
mhm.
The problem with turning up late is, especially in this case and in a lot of cases, is there is a curfew and the event has to be over by a certain time.
Mhm.
And if you are the marquee, um,
If you're the
um,
headliner.
if you're the headliner and you show up an hour and a half, 2 hours late, that's going to cut the time you have to perform by that much because these events, these venues, they got to pull the plug at a certain amount of time. And of course, in this story, while Hill and Wyclef eventually performed, arriving on stage around 10 p.m., the pair's tardiness would cause the set to go beyond the 11 p.m. curfew as they wrapped up their show approximately 25 minutes after the hour. So you can imagine, again, I'm not a roadie, I'm not a production, I'm not engineering, I'm not stage crew, I'm not people who are coordinating putting on these shows, but you being late affects all these different things. And to me, it's a little disrespectful to where you've got these roadies, you've got these audio people, you've got these sound engineers, you got the lighting, you got the video, you got the event
Concessions,
itself, concessions, you got all these people going
security.
on this security, going on this schedule, and they have to adjust everything because you feel like I can show up late and they still going, I'm still be able to perform. It's a little disrespectful, and just want to get
Yeah,
your take on it.
it's very disrespectful. And I saw Beyonce. I went to Renaissance. Mama
Mhm.
started on time.
On
I saw
time.
I
Okay.
saw Janet. As soon as the clock struck 7, the
Hmm.
music started. I saw
Okay. All
Missy.
right.
As soon as 8 o'clock hit, the music started
Okay. All
on
right.
time.
All right.
And those are the three of the biggest artists in the world.
Right.
Secondly, these people got off lucky that she was only an hour late. I went to see Lauryn Hill at Chastain Park. If
Hmm.
you are from Atlanta, not from Atlanta, Chastain's Park is amphitheater is in a residential neighborhood.
A
Midnight,
bougie residential
very
neighborhood.
expensive. It's old money. This is
Hmm.
old Atlanta. This is, old family money.
Hmm.
Right smack in the middle of the neighborhood. They have a midnight curfew. They
Hmm.
will turn the lights off on you. We get there. She comes out. It close. It has the concert supposed to be over by midnight. She comes at about 11:30.
Oh my goodness.
It may have even be. I think she maybe performed 25 minutes,
Hmm.
if that. She got out 2 songs. This is Lauryn Hill, and this is like
Hmm.
maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And then she got on the stage whining and complaining. I want to give you guys a show. I want to be up here. And they was like, bloop, cut the mic,
Hmm.
cut the lights on. They shut down the power, and security was telling us, you all have to leave. and she's on the
Hmm.
stage still trying to sing. It's like, baby girl, no one can hear you. We ended up
Hmm.
getting refunds back for that show, but what
Hmm.
they don't refund you, parking, because it's
Right.
freaking
And your
ridiculous.
time.
Time, people bought outfits, people got babysitters, people bought food, people pre-game, all these things. None of that is included in that. And you sit there for 3 hours. We sat there in the amphitheater. Those seats do not
Hmm.
have cushions, they're
Right.
benches.
Right.
So it's not comfortable.
Right.
And it's only so much food you can eat and drink. And then people are trying to wait because it's like, okay, maybe she's an hour late. And so an hour
Hmm.
hit. And it's like, well, maybe she's another 30 minutes. And the time just keeps stretching because you're like, maybe it's coming, maybe it's coming. We're already here. We already drove out here. And again, she maybe performed 25 minutes before the city literally shut off the power. She's in the mic, and then all of a sudden you can just kind of hear a little bit of her voice because she's yelling at that point. But
Right.
no, anybody
Wrap it up.
in anybody can get it, and they did.
Hmm.
And
Right.
anybody in the year of our sweet baby Jesus 2024 chooses to go and see this woman are idiots. Every
Yeah, you
time she
tripping now.
posts, every time someone, ever since that concert, I said I would
Hmm.
never see that lady again. And every time she, announces a concert and people going, I was like, y'all are stupid as hell.
Yeah, yeah,
I said,
buddy.
y'all are dumb. And I think over that, since I went to see her and to now, I think she's maybe been on time
Once.
ish once and gave a full performance. And I think that was in New York when they had some big event and she performed. I think that was probably because people was like, oh my God, the show was great. And she's talented. She's gifted. Both of
Sure.
them are. No one is denying their talent. But
Sure.
if you're not going to show up,
Right.
how's that going to
I'm
help
t-
you?
I'm too old to be trying to do all that. And then what makes matters worse in some cases, I could even see it being embarrassing for the performer who is late. Like for instance, in this story, the person claiming to work at the event venue
Mm-hmm.
noted that Hill was an hour late, while
Mm-hmm.
others said the arena was a third empty by the end of Hill and Wyclef's performance,
Mm-hmm.
as many attendees left in order to catch transportation home. So
Mm-hmm.
imagine I'm coming out here thinking that this thing is going to be packed, thinking I'm going to give them the performance of their life. And then while you up there performing, people are leaving. That's got to be embarrassing to say the least, but almost like a hit to your ego. It's like y'all couldn't wait until I got done. It's like, Heifer, you couldn't get here early so we could listen to you perform.
That lady don't care. That lady does not care about any of that. And she was
Yeah.
saying how she had to, what did she say? It was basically like she had to, because she was basically trying to give her reason of why it took her so long. And I know those event people told her, look, if you do not go on and you aren't done by midnight, they're going to cut you off. I think she's just that egotistical that
Oh
she thought
wow.
that the rules didn't apply to her because, like I said, after the power got cut, she was still trying to perform, and it's like
Hmm.
no.
Too
And
late.
I really
It ain't
don't
for a
think she
negotiation
thought
now.
right. No, and I really think that she thought that she would be exempt. And baby, I love the Fugees, the Miseducation,
Mhm.
classic, love it, but those are now 20 plus odd years old and that's what you're touring off of,
Yeah,
and
buddy.
you're getting people purely for nostalgia's sake because
Yeah.
she couldn't even perform the songs how they are on the album because she
Right.
doesn't own the masters. So
Yep.
we're already taking a chance on not
Right.
hearing what we want to hear the way
How
we
we
want to
how it was
hear it.
played. Yeah.
Right. And so then just the audacity to
Yeah.
continue to be late, to continue to do this to people, knowing you can't even give them the product that they want. And then to be like, oh, well,
Right. It is
oops,
what it
whatever.
is. And
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 she
to
does it.
keep
And
and to keep doing it. It ain't like
right.
this is the first time. This is like
No, years,
years
years
of
and years.
behavior.
Absolutely. But
So, yep.
because people still buy tickets, she thinks it's
Yeah.
okay. And it's like, no, ma'am, tis not.
Eventually they gonna stop even doing that. And then where you gonna be? Because
Right.
I'm pretty sure you ain't making since you don't own the masters, you ain't making that money like you was. So most of these artists are making money. Their main source of income is touring.
Yeah.
And let people stop buying them tickets, then where you gonna be?
Right. She's already, done a number on the States. Now she's over in the UK.
Tearing
You
up.
are you're gonna run out of people that even who would
Yeah,
even want to
buddy.
even consider seeing you. So
Mm.
I don't know, girl. Best of luck
Oh
to you.
well.
But I won't ever
Best
see
of
you again. Ever.
Yeah, best of luck to you. All right, so that's going to do it for the culture. We're going to move into the hookup. For those who don't know, I am in the market for a new camera because the camera that I've currently been using for the past couple years has been giving me too much drama. So it's like, I bet I'm done. I need to find a new camera. So I have found a new camera, but it
Okay.
won't be here until next week. So I don't get a chance to play with it and test it out, see if it works until next week. In the meantime, I actually bought, and I don't know why it took me so long, but I actually bought a MagSafe mount for my tripod because normally what I was doing, and I'll actually show you, for those who are listening, you just have to pretend, but for those who are watching, I have these little tripod mounts that have the
Mhm.
little arms that have
The
the
little
grip that can
brackets. Yeah.
adjust. But what happens most of the time when I put it in this, I put it in the wrong position and it's up against a volume button or it's up
Mhm.
against the sleep button. And I can't figure out why the camera don't work because these little clamp things have clamped it down on the button, which enables it to work. So I got to get it put in there just right.
Gotta
And I
adjust
don't,
it. Yeah.
right, versus my phone. The last three phones I've had have had the MagSafe magnetic adapter on the back. So
Mhm.
my hookup for the week is if you have not, if you use a tripod or you use any sort of a car mount, it would behoove you to get a magnetic MagSafe tripod mount. I found this one on Amazon for 15 bucks and I'm actually using it right
Nice.
now because until I get my real camera, I'm actually using my phone as the camera.
Yeah.
The benefit is the video looks great. The
Mhm.
negative is I can't control the zoom on my camera, on the phone camera, like I can a standalone streaming slash regular camera. With those, I can control the zoom, so on and so
Mhm.
forth. But with this, I got to move the camera physically back and forth, which I don't have that much room to do that. But at least now I can actually make it easier to mount my phone on this tripod because all I got to do is slap it to the back and it's up there. So that's my hookup for the week. If you do need a mount, whether it be tripod, desk mount, car mount, we put a link in the show notes. That is a $15 MagSafe tripod mount. So that
Nice.
is my hookup for the week. Nika, if you don't have anything else, that's going to do it
Nope.
for this week's show. So tell the folks where they can find you.
You can find me at Tech Savvy Diva all over the internets.
And you can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH. To comment, connect, share, support, please go to our website. Go to snoboscast.com. You can get all the details on how to follow us on social media, how to listen to the show, how to follow our Discord community. Also on the website, if you go to the website, we will have a link to the Discord community. Please join us in the Discord. A lot of the show ideas, a lot of the stories that I think about putting on the show, I put them in Discord first to see if people like them, see if they don't. So if you want to be a member of our community, you want to get off of social media, Threads has been bothering me lately. So I've been coming slowly and surely coming off of social media. I still want to talk to folks. So please
Yeah.
join our Discord. Like I said, we'll put a link in the show notes and you can find that on our website again. Go to snoboscast.com. And until next week, we're out. Peace.
Bye, everybody.